It's a swinging station in Buffalo, the Big WUFO.
And I'd like to welcome everybody once again to the Buffalo History Channel. It's been a while since I got on here with an interview, but we've been hard at work putting out a few original productions and doing some other stuff that we had on the Buffalo History Channel. I'd like to thank you all for tuning into the last original production, which was Fillmore Unity Day of 1972. And we're wrapping up the our 2021 year, and we're going to be going into 2022 with our fifth original production, The Soul of Buffalo TV, which takes a look back at Buffalo's Black media by way of television. So that's going to also be an interesting show coming up, and that's going to premiere live on the Buffalo History Channel Saturday, January 1st at 9 p.m. right here on YouTube. Now, this interview here is one that I am very excited about doing and very happy about doing. I have the pleasure to be joined by the members of the Mullins family, the children of Don Mullins. You all remember Don Mullins. He was the general manager of radio station 1080 AM WUFO, the legendary 1080 AM WUFO. You know, today it stands as Power 96.5 FM. We're going to talk about the early years of WUFO as it was ran by their father, Mr. Don Mullins. I'd like to welcome to the Buffalo History Channel, Don Mullins Jr., Daryl Mullins, Donna Mullins Prince, and Renee Mullins Puzo. Mullins family, welcome to the Buffalo History Channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate you for doing this.
I am
Absolutely.
Also Daryl Moon Things.
Daryl Moon Things.
Since we're doing hyphens.
It's the Funketeer himself. And I had a chance to meet Daryl a few years ago when he popped up at 89 LaSalle Avenue.
I came by. Didn't know it was in the last days, but yeah, I came by.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was on my way to moving to LA, and I was able to make it by. Right, I did.
Okay, so let me just give you just a little bit of background from me. My connection with WUFO, that'll probably be a good lead-in. When I started working at WUFO as an employee, January of 2007, and when I got there, I can remember they were preparing to celebrate their 45th anniversary. They were going to have a reunion party, and we were trying to pull together a bunch of old materials on WUFO. I told them that I'm going to go. I'll go down to the Buffalo Public Library, because I remember when I was doing the Build documentary years ago. And
which we appreciate.
Side note, there is another connection with myself and the Mullins family. Build Academy.
Build is
yes,
right.
Yes. Build Academy.
Very, very tight.
Clinton Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very tight.
And our other sister, who sadly passed away, we have to acknowledge her, Jerry Mullins.
Yeah.
And it'll be 2 years in February, and we miss her terribly.
Okay.
And as you know, we're from a close family, but not to interrupt though.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to bring that because she and Donna were at Build Academy. That's why I brought her up. So
okay. And when I was going through a lot of the materials, and I was going to the library, and I was going through the microfilms of all the because I remember when I was looking through stuff for Build, I remember I would stumble across different advertisements for WUFO and its shows and its personalities. So I went up there, spent some time, and pulled a whole lot of material. And by the time we celebrated the 50th anniversary, I made contact with some of you, Donna in particular, and you sent me a lot of pictures from those days at WUFO. Can you all take us back as much as your memory will allow? What was it like when your father didn't start out at WUFO as the general manager? He was in the sales department. He was
the news. I believe.
Okay, give
No,
us
he
some
actually, he
perspective.
actually, he actually started off doing as a gospel jock, as they call it in
Right.
those days.
And then he went on to news.
And I don't remember whether it was 1962 or 63, but it was one of those years. And then at some point, he switched over and started doing news. And from
Okay.
news, he went into sales.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I remember we were really little, and our mom gathered us around the radio to hear, our father on the air and everything. We was doing the gospel, and then from that, you have gospel, so you have, we were really young, so when we would see like the Caravans and all of these awesome gospel groups, James Cleveland, all but we were young, but it's something that made a real impression on us. So at the same time.
Okay, Daryl.
Yes.
Now I know you used to talk about Cayuga Road.
Well,
Take us back to Cayuga Road. What was that? Was the first part of WUFO?
as they was just saying, like 61, 62, 63. I don't remember back then. My first memories are, I guess, around 60, maybe into 64, 65. Okay. Which only makes me like 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. Cayuga, Maine, on top of the phone company. And I guess like 4 or 5 years old. And I remember we would go up there and I would hang around for a while. And I guess it was like maybe Jerry B. and Gary Bird. There was, like I said, I'm 4 or 5 years old. There's a donut shop across Maine. On Maine and Cleveland, the other side of the street.
Right.
And, Jerry B. and Gary Bird used to send me to the donut shop to get them donuts. I'm like 4 or 5. Crossing over Main Street too, but that was back when things were Mayberry like. Some of my, like I say, the Cayuga Road. Those are some of my first memories on Cayuga Road, and then the move to LaSalle, I guess, was about sometime into '67, which makes me still 5 going on 6. Those are very, very interesting days on top of this phone company.
Mm-hmm. I went out there.
Like weird memories. Like I don't really remember. I remember going upstairs and stuff. The one thing I remember the most is the men's bathroom. That's for some reason that's what I remember. I remember the studio a little bit as well.
Yeah, I remember it very well. I was older.
Not terribly small, but I remember the building being kind of small, but not terribly small. I see where they moved to LaSalle.
Yeah, I went out there one time. My father back in the late 60s. And the first time I remember going, a trip that seemed like yesterday for me, was a Saturday morning in late 1964, and it may have stood out for me for one reason because Guy Cameron, I believe, was on the air. He actually interviewed me. Like you would do for an 8-year-old, right? Just asking me a few questions. In fact, it was a few people that I knew.
He was such a nice man.
Yeah, actually heard it, but that was the first time I remember. And I, subsequent to that, went out there on a fair number of occasions. I was always sort of fascinated by the teletype machines. All the news would come into the station.
Do they still have those, Doug? All this technology now, I would imagine.
With technology, it's
they have I know they have like this museum at their new location. I think they call it the Black Radio Collective at their new location. So they got some different things in there from LaSalle. I think they should. One of them teletype machines might actually be there.
Oh man, that would be awesome! I'm telling you. I mean, that was just such.
What's the teletype technology now? Is it still, that?
It was so loud. It was just, it was there. It was definitely there.
I'm getting over the internet now.
So Donna, what are some of your memories early on?
Well, of course, my memory started on LaSalle. I have no memory of the other location, but I just remember it being like a second home to us, really, because we would be there all the time.
Great analogy.
For a while, we would go even after school, like daily. We would go after school. I remember like myself, my sister Jerry, doing our homework either in our father's office or in the lobby, or sometimes we would find like an empty office. And just like, I was joking with some of the disc jockeys on Facebook and saying like they had to have a lot of patience with us because we were really young. And I mean, we behaved and everything, but we were still little children. And asking a million questions and hanging around, and I know it had to get on their nerves a little bit, but everybody was so nice. It was a wonderful environment.
I have to say that too. Yeah, everyone was always so nice.
Yeah, it was a great environment.
From days gone by to really till you got there, Doug. I'm sure beyond that, of course, but as far as we can remember, everyone was just really pleasant,
They were.
So
You heard it, but like in 1971, Don Jr., we call him Boo. In 1971 or so, was that like 71, Boo? Me and Boo became the janitors.
Oh no, that was myself as well. It was the three of us. The three of us.
5-day.
That's our first job.
The old man put y'all to work, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I was like 12 and we were the janitors. Okay.
However, I'm like 10 years old. So, what happened was that Brother Ted didn't work not far away.
Ted.
He was able.
You remember Brother Ted Johnson?
Yep.
Do you have any record? Yeah.
Brother Ted would come on his way home from work and pass by our house and pick up me and Boo, and we'd lug our vacuum cleaner into his car.
And myself.
Yeah, and he'd take us to WUFO. By then it's probably like about 5:15. Sometimes they'd be just getting ready to go off or having just signed off. And then we would come home with my dad. But like I said, I'm like 9, 10 years old. So, it's already taken me 100 years to get home on the Bill Academy school bus. Because we lived on
we lived on the north side of Buffalo.
The street over from Fillmore. So we were like, we were the first on the bus and last off the bus.
Yeah, sure was.
So, by the time I get home from Bill Academy in the snow, blizzards and all that kind of nonsense. Here come Brother Ted, and I'm 19 years old. I would much rather stay home and watch Commander Tom, but I got to go to damn WUFO.
And then my vision of you, Daryl, was you carrying that vacuum cleaner. We were all piled in that car to go, and this was 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Yeah. And that was our first job.
In those few years, I think we stopped and started, but I don't think we stopped to like 75 or 6 or something. But in those few years, I'll speak for myself. Whether or not we wanted to or not, we saw it all. Speaking of which, I love the good, bad, and ugly.
Good, bad, and ugly. There's one thing I want to bring up.
Chuck E. T's dirty magazines and his Dexter.
Love Chuck E. T.
Okay. There's something I want to bring up. I remember as we were doing the history of WUFO, there was a story, I think, Donna, you might have shared this with me at one point, that, and I know I heard it from some of the other people at WUFO back in Buffalo. There was an attack on the station. Somebody busted through with WUFO.
That's how many?
Or firebombed it or something.
Right.
It was gunshots at first. Was the tower or the gunshots? Which came first?
There was a reason for the cinder block in the front. There were windows, nice, beautiful big windows in the front at first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, Boo, you could probably explain more about the power
gunshots came
twice.
I think the gunshot came first.
Okay,
yeah, Don Jr., you're still on mute.
Yeah, they shot high-powered shotguns through the station.
Right.
That was before the
And
towers, right?
I think that was before the towers. The tower was
Yeah.
cut down twice.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
And
By
there was a
plan.
letter, that
Twice.
was sent to my father at the station that was signed by the Ku Klux Klan. Now, I don't know for sure where they came from them, but I
Right.
remember the letter very distinctly. And it was, it was just a very typical hate letter, and,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be here. And because at the time, this was sort of a changing neighborhood, and they really didn't want them over on LaSalle Avenue.
Right.
When you passed Bennett High School, you were kind of getting past the explicit black areas at that point. So,
Right.
so that's when they instead of moving, that's when they bricked in all the windows at the station
Right.
to make it a little bit safer.
My
Yeah.
memory of that is, I guess it was the second time, which made it more deeper because it was the second time. But I do remember sitting in the living room on Villa, color TV. Daddy was on the ABC Evening News. They were covering the second tear down, knockdown.
Right.
Yeah.
The
So that's
second one.
my memory of that. That was
I mean, to chop down the tower, okay, 2 times. So yeah, and then after that, it was shot at, and then the Molotov cocktail and everything. So but still, Buffalo survived it all, and a lot of great talent has come out of there.
remember he was there at night sometime as well, which was kind of spooky because
Right, which is, it scares me though, because Buffalo was always, somebody was there all the time.
Mhm.
There's always someone, even though it was a daytime station,
Right.
going by daylight savings times standards and everything. But after that, people were still in there, always. You had your program directors, you had your jocks, you had your clients that were still coming there way after hours. So it's just a wonder that no one got killed or injured, in those attacks and everything. So it's just a real blessing.
Curious to
Real
know,
blessing.
did you know either Frankie Crocker or Jimmy Lyons when you were growing up?
Frankie Crocker was kind of before our time,
Okay.
per se,
Yeah.
but Jimmy Lyons,
Leaving out.
you pretty much remember him, son.
Yeah. The connection to Frankie Crocker was not direct for us because that had passed before we were old enough to remember. But when my parents first got married in 1955, they talked about, and I later was able to confirm this through academic study, but there was a crisis in Buffalo. Black people couldn't find places to live very easily because they didn't want, people were pouring in from the South, and they couldn't move outside of that very lower sort of downtown East Side area. So they couldn't even get an apartment. They had to live with a family over on Gray Street. And as it turns out, we became very close to that family because we ended up going to the same church, Macedonia Fire and Baptized Church, which is over on
Definitely
Peckham Street.
raised in church.
Yeah, and then there was the son of that couple that my parents lived with. His children ended up being my parents' godchildren. But his best friend, his best friend at the time, he was about 14 years old, was Frankie Crocker. So this is before Frankie became Frankie. He was still
Right.
just another
And
kid running around on the east side of
all the
Buffalo.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Eddie OJ?
Never knew him
There's always a
personally.
lot of talk about Eddie OJ, but
Yeah.
that was, again, pretty much before our time.
I think he was there as we were coming in and just leaving out. Of course, that's like when I was born and stuff. But I think there was a cross connection there, but before he left for Cleveland, which might have been like 61, 62, something like that.
Right.
I was reading that your father was really instrumental as the station manager. That he really made sure that he put a lot of Black people in a lot of key places, and he really increased a lot of the Black programming on WUFO. And certainly there were a number of jocks that you all came across during those years. Any reflections of some of the people like maybe Chucky T or Double D or some of the old shows?
Al Parker.
We had known Double forever because Thulka did my mom's hair.
All right. Well,
So-
I'm mine too.
So
Well,
I remember.
Really close to the family.
I remember
I'm still close to Double D. So
I remember like a 16, 17-year-old Double, like in his room practicing
Mhm.
to be a DJ.
So his
And-
mother Thelka was also very much associated with WUFO because
Yeah.
she had been on the station as a gospel
yeah,
personality. And
definitely.
then they
What a
had a
nice
group
lady.
of people who used to be very associated with a lot of the gospel concerts that would come through WUFO called the WUFO Missionaries.
Yeah,
And
Buffalo missionaries.
I think she was the head of that. So
Yeah.
we knew Thulka and her husband Landon very, very
Right.
well. And the daughter Sabrina
Yeah.
and I think
And her husband
Double D
Landon.
might have been 16 when he got
Yeah.
hired. I mean, that was
Yeah.
definitely an inside hire. There's no question about
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
he
We
really
felt it.
appreciated. He looked for opportunities to give. He looked for situations where he could provide opportunities to
Right.
talented people like that.
Yeah.
Now,
And,
I also read where I've had some articles that I have to find them, but WUFO also worked a lot in conjunction with the Build organization.
Absolutely.
Oh yes.
He was
Oh,
real tight
yes.
with
And 339
Bill
Genesee.
Gator and
Yeah.
oh yes. Oh yes. And besides Build, there was also Operation Push
Yes.
and everything. And I remember going on Saturdays with my dad to Operation Push and everything. And then, but before that, of course, Build Academy. And I only went there for 1 year, and it was like one of the best years for me. I really, really enjoyed and learned a lot by attending Build Academy, I must say. So, but Donna and Jerry who were there for how many years? About
From pre-K to 6th grade.
to 6th grade.
I
So,
went
yeah.
until 6th grade. Jerry went until 8th grade.
Wow.
second best.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
a good school.
Entire time in Buffalo.
Because I know Daryl and I were there together.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, great teachers, just great study format, just everything. The curriculum was right on target, because when I left Build Academy and went to another school, I could proudly say I knew that and more by the time I got someplace else. So they were really, really doing what they needed to do there.
Now, Renee, you got on the radio. You were on the radio.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I remember when you were on the radio. There's audio of you on YouTube that I heard as well.
Oh gosh.
So when did you first get on the radio?
I didn't want that one, but what year was the 81? 80. It was 80. And I really had no aspirations of actually being on air, not at all. I knew something in entertainment, but I wanted to do something, behind the scenes, more behind the scenes, or do something in journalism, that type of thing, or, just continue on and become an attorney and be done with it, that kind of thing. But it just was happenstance, as what happens in radio. It's like at the right place at the right time, I guess. And it was actually my father. It was like some college friends were with me, and I'll drop some names a little bit later, but were with me, and we were just playing around the production room like we always did. And but my father heard it, really for the first time. And he said, well, why don't you, I just did the weather. And he was like, do it over again, that kind of thing. I did it over again, not thinking anything. And did that. And before I knew it, he was training me to become a radio announcer. Now, because of course of nepotism and all of that, people would throw that, but I'm here to tell you, my father trained me like no one's business. Like I have never, because I've been program director of many stations and, music director and on air for all of these years. And I've never even trained anyone like I was trained by my father, even with, being on the air and with, no monitor or anything like that, the timing, all of that. He taught me, just from the bare minimum up to,
Yeah,
and
you were natural though.
Well, he felt that way, I guess, which was good because I can say I've been, pretty successful in it, but I just appreciate that time and that training that I got from him. And then I ended up on WUFO. And it's a weird story because, I was just in training, but I got a call during this training toward the kind of like the end of it, and got a call. It was like midday, about 11 o'clock. And, my father always, I could hear him, how he would call my name. He's like, you got to get over here right now. You got to go over here. And I'm not thinking anything. I said, okay, well, I got over there. And apparently Doug had a heart attack. And thank God he lived and everything, but he had a heart attack on air. And I had to go on. Doug,
wow.
Yeah. And when he had the heart attack, Daddy put me on and to finish out his shift. And so I ended up doing his shift. And then I ended up with a little shift of my own, which was like right before it signed off, the station signed off. And so I was still learning and everything. And I have evolved. So, but it was a great honor and pleasure to be one of the alumni from WUFO, and just to be in great company like that.
And it's 8 minutes past 6, something from Sharon Brown, and she specializes in love. With 1080 Magic, the sound of the city. I'm Renee for a Thursday Eve. And don't forget to after the Whispers concert tonight, bring your ticket stub and receive a discount on admission. That's at Sylvester's. It's going to be a serious throwdown. And it's 12 minutes past 6 right now. Something from my listener feedback line. It's Soul Sonic Force, and they call it Planet Rock. We're 1080 Magic, the sound of the city. I've got my own super. And it's 8 minutes before, past 7 right now. Here's a reminder that the Gale Family Singers will proudly present a Shriners Talent and Scholarship Pageant. That's Sunday, May 23rd, 1982, at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Oscar Michelle Theater, located at 3051 Bailey at Kensington.
But that's how it started. So I ended up there. Then I ended up, another radio station, especially once we moved to Florida. And, the rest is history. And but my father, there's always been a great pleasure to be able to work with him on a few occasions, about 3-4 occasions. I worked with my dad in radio directly with him, which was just really good. Me being program director, him accounts manager, sales manager, and all of that. So it's been great. It's been great.
I remember hearing that y'all's dad had this distinctive radio voice.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It sounded kind of like Daryl's got a little.
And he was definitely. They also said he was definitely. He was definitely all business at
Well, I got the female version.
He didn't play.
Okay, because we never got spanked by my dad. But by the time he got finished saying what you did and everything in that voice, that was enough to scare you to death. So
you wish
it was that voice,
You wish they had gotten spanked.
Now, Daryl, I know you became a musician.
I did.
Yes, so certainly WUFO had an impact on. Talk to us about becoming a musician.
Wow. Well, I started like really young. This is like the whole time I'm at WUFO, emptying the trash cans and stuff. And I started playing drums, I guess about 11 or 12.
Very talented too.
With my dad's encouragement. And by like 13 or 14, I was in some local bands. We were a P-Funk cover band. In the summer of '76, we're talking about Jim Scher.
Why
the summer of '76, David Wilson was like, David Michael,
right? David Michael,
yep. One
Mark Van's brother.
Okay. One of the hottest jocks on the air at the time. And he hooked up with this promoter, Jim Scher? Was it Jim Scher? And he was running the Delwood that whole summer. And it's weird because by now Renee and I we're going to school in Williamsville.
Right.
We've left the academy and we're in Williamsville. It was
Right.
somehow I looked up in summer school, and this kid I was going to summer school with was the kid who was making some of Jim Sherr's speakers. And he wound up catching one of our band rehearsals or something like that. And Jim Sher had the wacky idea of why don't you come down and play drums along with the music? And that was the summer of 76. And I was like 15. And David on the ones and twos.
Wow.
We had a big on stage, and we literally turned out the Dellwood that summer. The Dellwood was the place to be on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, it was.
Summer 76. And then as summer was winding down, these dudes stepped to me, and they were the local band Phoenix. Because like a quick time, back in the mid 70s, 75, 76, 77, there was an incredibly healthy local band scene.
Oh yeah, well, entertainment scene period in Buffalo.
And, there was the Cause and Sabata, and this band, that band. Our band was Phoenix, and I was, I'm like everybody in Phoenix was way older than me. They had gone to school with Boot, and they were like older than Boot. So yeah, I'm going into the 10th or 11th grade. All these cats are out of school already.
Doing these gigs.
We want you to be our drummer, and not to mention that we live 35 miles away.
Right.
But so I became the drummer for Phoenix, and Mr. Bellamy was our manager, not Herb, the liquor store guy, but his brother who owned the deli across the street was our manager.
A small world.
And like I said, it was a very, very healthy circuit, and we played everywhere that year. From UB to Little Harlem to we were doing weddings, clubs, Erickson. We were doing 1 week stands and Lackawanna. It was just crazy.
Wow.
We played the WBLK Christmas party.
Speaking of WBLK,
Frank Lorenz, and I noted the irony of it all.
The irony, exactly.
That night. And but yeah, so by now, like I'm a hardcore veteran now. At 16, I've left, and on the same circuit was like the Cause was like we would play with the Cause, and the Cause was Levi,
right?
Levi and Lance, and all them. They all became the Stone City Band. So like I said, this was before Rick. This was a couple of years before Rick moved back into town from Canada.
Right.
So, I go way back with the dudes like 14 and 15, and then the Bishops, the Bob Bishop with them, are from the east side off of Ferry. So that's kind of how my Funkadelic connection began. And as Renee just said, the rest is history.
I remember Rick with those dogs and everything, and pressuring Danny to play his jams and stuff.
Rick lived on Rich Street across from Martin Luther King Park.
Right. Right.
When we
Rick James
around, and I formally met him at the Isley Brothers concert. He said, "Come to my crib tomorrow." So I'll never forget. I live at 62 Rich Street, but he had some dogs. He had a raggedy done up Mercedes. And, the rest is history. We're ready.
Let's go over to Donna. So, how did WUFO
the baby
impact you? How did you do anything else in media from WUFO?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm
totally left field. Okay, right field to the left.
I'm actually a licensed funeral director and embalmer.
Okay.
And
that's all she's ever wanted to
go into anything media related.
Well, I would call her the world's funkiest. Right there.
but I will tell you this, Doug. When we were younger, I guess I was probably about 4 or 5. Myself and my sister Jerry, we did a commercial for Henry's Hamburgers, and I haven't heard it since then. But if you ever get your hands on it or run across it or something, please let us know. I would love to hear it. But
absolutely.
Yeah, but I never had any media involvement at all. No.
Sometimes that I guess that was as far as you went with it.
Right.
But she was always around it.
Yeah, always around it. Always around it.
Because we were raised with every genre of music in our home.
Right.
Everything. I mean, even speeches from, I mean, just everyone, Martin Luther King, all that. I mean, my parents played everything. So that's how even I was able to sustain a major radio career because, you know, my father would always encourage me to not just stay in R&B and everything. You know, you have to spread out, you have to, you know, master these different genres and everything as far as programming and everything. And that's exactly what I did. So I was blessedly never out of a job unless I just wanted to take a sabbatical or something like that. But yeah, from hot AC, rock, metal, well, that I did too, but in the house, it was gospel, speeches, well, of course, R&B, definitely, you know, rock as far as, well, soft rock, you know, because we were listening to, before WUFO came along, we were listening to YSL and KBW and everything. And then BLK came along as well and stuff, you know, they were there, but, you know, WUFO, by being an AM station, no one could ever say that AM stations can never beat out, because I'm here to prove that it can in the South as well. But WUFO was tremendous at one point. I mean, it was just unbelievable. You know, you had Al Parker in the mornings and everything. You had, you know, then not to mention, you know, Danny Harris. You had, well, Double D, Gary Bird. You know, we remember very well. And it's just, there's just so many. You know,
fairly artists.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just so many people have stepped foot, you know, in WUFO, and then not to mention in the news division and everything, Darcel Howell.
Yes.
And you know, just I mean, just
she's there now. She's back there now.
She's back there.
Yes.
She
was always so nice.
She hired me and Buddha to provide the music at her graduation party at the Statler.
Okay, so you know, just
or was that at the house? I was at her house at the Statler. We did twice.
Right.
So,
I mean,
one last thing about me and that band Phoenix, because I've had a lot of people I was playing the band Phoenix, but I had just turned 15. All these dudes like in their 20s or late teens or early. And I was like, well, you want me to audition? They said, no, you don't have to audition. We saw you playing at the Delaware.
Okay. So, Don Jr., so how did WUFO impact you in the later years?
So, you know, I had, you know, I have an immense amount of respect for that business. And I think for me, it was having the proximity to music, because, you know, from that, in fact, when I went out to WUFO, that date that I mentioned back in 1964, when I was 8 years old, I was getting my first record player that day. And that was the first time I actually remember really wanting certain records, right? And I ended up buying my first record that day. And so I think not only liking the music, but feeling like, you know, because my father was so involved with the radio station, music became sort of part of our lives. And in addition to that, you know, just like all the free tickets to all the stuff that came with him being involved with the radio station, we got a lot of music. I mean, I probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure to like not be backstage all the time. It's like what we experienced kind of like now. We were backstage growing up through these concerts and stuff.
You cross paths with all the legends people that are legends today.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, it just really very much affected, I think, my relationship with music, and being able to
I think
have it.
all of
And, yeah, it was very much a life-changing experience.
them. It really was. It really
I didn't
was.
have any interest in being in the business, and I think part of that is because when you grow up around all these, back in those days, the voice was very important. And when you
hmm
grow up around
Thank you
these
for saying that.
voices, right? I mean, the people that they had at the station, my father, and the Chuck E. Cheese and the Gary Birds and the Jerry Bledsoes and the Al Camerons and the
Back when you had to
people
take a
who, yeah,
test
people
in
who
order
went
to
on to
be
be
on the air
legends
as
in this
well.
business. Unless you have that type of voice, I don't think you start, imagining yourself as somebody who's going to be in that realm, right? So, but I just, I loved being around it. It was fun, but I never really saw myself as somebody who was going to be particularly in the front, like on the radio.
And,
But once
and
you
for
get
me,
into it,
for me, briefly, at a very early age, like I said, I was playing in some of the house local bands at 15, 12, 13, 14. I decided that I wanted to make music and not play music.
hmm and the thing was, once I actually, physically got into radio as such, because I was on the Erie Community College radio station as well before I even did WUFO and stuff. And but seriously, taking it very seriously. And then you really, I mean, we always had respect for our dad, but once I really got into it and got into especially the management side, I saw firsthand everything that he was going through. And our father was always very even tempered. So, he's going to come at you very calm, like, I mean, not, and it's just one of those things. I don't know how he was able to really just kind of maintain being even tempered like that throughout this business. And then also keep in mind, our dad was a trumpeter and played with quite a few people. And he really kind of put the trumpet down as we were growing up, through our childhood. And then once Donna got to be what I guess, like kind of like really in high school almost. And he decided to start back with his trumpet and, doing gigs and different things like that. So, for him to, he just did it all, as far as like in radio like that, to be as successful as he was, to definitely raise, he and my mom, a great family, and to always actually to be there, which is hard to do, being in this business. And then, also to kind of put his career, we all know how musicians are, to put his career as a musician pretty much kind of like on hold, but to expose us to all the elements and give us the choice on whether we wanted to go into this business or not, or, follow some other dream that we may have and everything. So they always were, unless we just took advantage of it, but they were always gave us options of different things that we may want to do, because they knew, we were all very close, come from a very close family, but we're still individuals. So they, gave us the opportunity to be able to explore that. So we're very grateful. And, I have to compliment my dad on being in this business and being able to maneuver through it and everything, especially in something like sales, which he was very successful. I mean, even in Florida, to be able to, as I started at a couple of stations that were not even built yet, but my dad sold these stations out before they were even, not one nail hit the plywood, so that's how dedicated and talented that he was, so it's just hard to believe that he was such a big presence as well. So it's still, after all these years, 2003, it's just hard to imagine he's not here. It's just physically not here.
I've been thinking about this lately. One of the most remarkable things with Daddy is when you go back and you look at it, like for him to have been named, like in the picture behind me here, for him to have been named general manager with all these the other candidates in front of him, was at like 66, late 66, late 67, and everything he had done prior to that.
And we think about how young he was, though.
He was barely 30 years old.
All right, that's what I'm saying. He was so young when all of this was happening.
That's the remarkable thing. You know, you're not given the reins at 31 years old.
Now, how long was he at WUFO? When did he leave WUFO exactly?
Like 81, 80.
It was the end of 1980.
Yeah.
Was it in the 80? I thought it was 81. It was 80
No,
then.
it was at the very end of 1980.
Yeah, it's December of 80.
Yeah, because we've been in Florida since 82. So yeah, not long after that. And successfully he moved on to television and everything, and still in the entertainment business, the media, And
I'm certain that through it all, it would not be complete without having the support of his wife and your mother.
Oh, absolutely.
As well. So I'm sure she was very important. She also was a very important part of this story.
Absolutely. Even though, she with 2 master's degrees and everything else, they always put the family first.
Absolutely.
And she was a counselor at
Kensington.
Right, and
also a city honor.
And city honor.
And city honor.
Oh, okay.
City honor. She was a counselor there not long before we left to come to Florida. And I say we because everyone was living in the same house. It's just that everyone had the same idea. Was Daddy decided to move on to another radio station in Florida, and it just sounded like a good idea to everyone. And then my late husband, it was good for like a career switch and everything, and go with his major in school. So it all just panned out and worked out, But Buffalo's been great. I mean, very fond memories of Buffalo and definitely WUFO and everything that my dad was doing. It just amazes me. You think back on it, just like we were saying, him being that young too. It's something else. It's something else. It really is. Okay. But he always put the employees first, no matter what. Of course, his family, but he always looked after his employees and everything, and wanted them to be, do the best that he could for them, to make them as comfortable and make sure everything was right with them.
Okay, before I wrap everything up, I don't know if you've been watching how WUFO has developed over the years. Now it's on the FM dial. It's Power 96.5 FM. What are your views on how you see WUFO today and what it came from?
It kind of saddens me a little bit that, for you, I can understand, things evolve, the situations evolve and everything, but to leave 89 LaSalle Avenue and then to be in another location and then to see it leveled was, it literally, I had to do a Fred Sanford and clutch my heart for a second.
That was somewhat surreal.
It was.
So I think what's going on and the progression it's making, and the new owner,
Sheila Brown.
Right.
Sheila Brown. I think my dad would be bursting with joy and pride.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. No question. I mean, I cannot wait, the next time we're coming through Buffalo or something like that. I have to. I mean, it would be criminal not to stop by WUFO and see, everyone.
Sheila would love to have you.
Oh, I would love to.
We're coming.
We're coming.
On Broadway.
Okay, is there anything else anybody would like to say before we close it out?
Well, I do want to acknowledge, they had the Attica Prison Riot special on Showtime.
Yes.
Right. And I only remember the great Myron Yancey was our news director at the time.
Right.
And Myron had a paralyzed, I guess maybe right or the left.
I think it was his right arm, I believe.
Yeah, and I just recently read on Google or something that he had polio or something as a child. And like there's I'm bringing this up because there's
he was a really good news person
maybe
too.
like maybe 10 or less times at WUFO that really stand out to me. And be it this or this happening or just an energy my dad brought home from the station. And I remember the Attica crisis being one of those where my dad was bringing home energy from the station, and Myron had got inside and like was inside like the whole time.
Right.
And I don't think he was really given the accolades that he deserved.
No,
we were just watching that on Showtime. I think I grabbed the still of him off the Showtime thing just recently. I think he went on to maybe some other stations in Buffalo, BF4 or something like that. I'm not really sure.
I remember I grabbed the still of Bill Gator in that special.
I definitely want to give a shout out to Myron Yancey.
Yeah. Okay.
Even with his paralyzed arm, so I guess I'm about 10 years old. Me and him would throw the baseball out the parking lot.
I mean, that didn't stop him from getting.
He had a hell of a fastball with that other arm.
Right. Okay. But definitely Byron Pitts. I don't know if anyone remembers Byron Pitts.
Oh, yeah.
Byron was just a great program director, and I remember him from just really before I even decided to totally get into radio, and it was just so ironic because when I was programming a radio station in Panama City Beach, and then when I decided to leave there and take a sabbatical, I wouldn't leave there, of course, without having someone replace me or something, and know that it would be in good hands. And that was Byron Pitts. And he did a great reign there. And I just want to acknowledge him. And he has since, passed away, but, just he and, his family and everything. And they were always really supportive of him.
WUFO didn't import many jocks from out of town. A few that they did was the notorious Marty Marte.
Oh, man.
From Cleveland.
Yeah. Kelly Carson.
Roy Sampson from the DC area.
Roy Sampson.
Yeah. But there was like a cascading parade.
And please forgive us if we didn't mention anyone else's name because it's just kind of off on the fly and stuff. But we're acknowledging everyone that ever walked through those doors. Absolutely. But definitely in gospel as well.
Warren Epps was a dear friend. Came out to the house a few times. Warren Epps.
Oh yeah, Warren Epps. Great person on the air. Just so much talent that went through there. I remember as really being young and sitting there watching Chucky T on the air as we were supposed to be cleaning up, and watching him on the air and how he would interact with the listeners and his own family and everything on the air, and then queuing up the records with the old turntables back then with the huge arm and everything with the wooden and it was just it was something else to me. I just had to and I still didn't really aspire to go into radio like that, but I took it all in. I used to watch him, I used to watch Al Parker like that, but it just amazed me how they would be on the air and then able to hit the post like that and all of that, which of course I took along with me. And it's been great. And I can definitely say throughout the years, if I had not watched them and pretty much studied them, then, along with what my father had trained me for, I don't think I would have been as successful as I have been in radio, in broadcast period. So it's been great. It's been great. And proud to say that I came from WUFO like that.
Well, Mullins family, it has been a pleasure and an honor to have you a part of the Buffalo History Channel and to continue to tell the story of Buffalo radio.
We love your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love your show. And thank you so much for inviting us. And you couldn't ask for more. We just are so grateful for the opportunity to speak on our dad, as people like to lovingly call him, the great Don Mullins, and they wouldn't be wrong by that.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Doug, are you still in Buffalo? You DC area?
I'm residing in Maryland right now. I left Buffalo in 2018.
Okay.
So I'm not far from Howard.
Oh, okay.
I'll be down there Wednesday.
Oh, okay.